Hello everyone, welcome to this video on introduction to quantum GIS graphical user interface. So we're going to be familiarizing ourselves with the user interface and its core components. So firstly, you can download QGIS by visiting qgis.org and then click on download. This is available for various systems, including Mac OS and Windows as well as Linux. So you can go ahead and download for your respective system. Once downloaded, you can be able to install the file, and once installed, you can open QGIS desktop from your applications menu. Once opened, this is the default layout, and you can double click on this empty project. Now we are going to go ahead and explore the different features that are available on Quantum GIS or QGIS. There are 5 main sections. The main one is the menu bar, and then you have the toolbars, and you have the different panels. There's also a map canvas as well as the status bar at the bottom. So in terms of the different panels, you have browser panel, you have layers panel, and we have the processing toolbox on this side. Next, under the menu bar, we have various menus. So this includes project, edit, view, layer, settings, plugins, vector raster, database, web, processing. So those are the main ones, as well as help, where you can find different tools to help you with specific questions that you might have. Under project, if you go there is new. This allows us to create a new project, and there's also new from template, which allows us to create a new project from the template. So the project allows us to save whatever layers that we are busy with within one folder or one file, which we can always open later on to edit and make adjustments and save the status at that particular time. We can also have we are also able to open an existing project. We can close the project from here. There's also tools to save the project and save as, if you wanted to save a new project as a different name. For example, we are going to save this current project. So currently is untitled, therefore we can save it, and we can give it a name, right? I'm just gonna name it test and save. And now the name of the project appear at the top of our Quantum GIS. We can also be able to adjust the project properties. So there's various options, including setting up the CRS of the project. Currently is WGS 84, and other options. Now let's go under the edit menu. The edit menu allows us to edit or provide various options for editing. This includes undo, redo, cut, copy, paste. You can paste features as a new vector layer or a temporary scratch layer. It allows us to delete selected layers, and also there's various options for selection. Select features, by polygon, freehand, by radius, by value, by expression, and so on. It allows us to add features, new features, particularly when we editing an existing layer or digitizing a new layer. Next, under view, we have also various options which enable us to change the view of our layout. So for example, we have under panels, we can select the panels that we want to see. So currently we have the browser panel, which is active, the layers panel, the processing toolbox. So you can actually enable any of these depending on how or which ones you want at that particular time. You can also enable the different toolbars. So currently these are the ones that are active, and you can disable and enable any of these toolbars. There's also an option to toggle between the full screen mode, like that. There are also options to zoom, to compute summary statistics, identify features, to measure, linear features, areas, bearings, and angles. You can zoom to the last extent, zoom to selection, zoom to the native resolution, zoom in and out, options to pan the map, and to create a new map view, as well as 3D map views. Next, under layer, we also have various options to add and remove layers, to set properties, and toggle editing. There's also the data source manager, which we can use to load the data. There's create layer to create various types of layers, including shapefiles, GPX, the virtual layers, the geopackage layers. There's add layer, which allows us to add various types of layers, including vector layers, raster layers, delimited text layer if you are dealing with CSVs, and various database layers as well. There is a georeferencer, which allows one to start georeferencing their data. And we can be able to remove the layer groups. Next, under processing, we can be able to activate the processing toolbox panel or deactivate it, like so. Activate it so that we can be able to access the different toolboxes that are available within QGIS. There is also plugins, which allows us, the plugins menu allows us to manage the plugins. So this means we can be able to install new plugins by searching through the list that is already available on the repository, or install from the zip file if that particular plugin is not available on the QGIS repository. We can be able to remove existing plugins. We can be able to update and reinstall as well. Next, the help menu allows us to be able to explore the help contents for Quantum GIS, to check the version of Quantum GIS that we are using. Currently, we are using the long-term release version of Quantum GIS, which is 3.40.5, whereas the latest version is 3.42.1. The long-term release version is always encouraged because you will experience less bugs. But if you are prepared to deal with the bugs and need latest features within Quantum GIS, you can use the latest version. So you can be able to donate as well to the Quantum GIS project and be able to view other details, such as if you need the commercial support, and the QGIS API documentation if you want to use QGIS with the Python command line or Python scripting. So normally what is encouraged is to save your project as much as possible, and you can also use Control Save on your keyboard to save your project frequently. This is to ensure that you have the latest project saved, so that if anything happens, it doesn't affect your project. Now, under the toolbars, which is this section here located under the menu bar, so this will contain the most commonly used toolbars. Everything that is here is also in the menus. So the menus contain a more comprehensive list of the tools that you can use, whereas on the toolbar you can access the tools that are frequently used. So as you can see, there is a new project. If you hover over each tool, you can be able to see what each tool does. You can be able to open the project, to save the project, layout manager, the style manager, the pen, zoom in and zoom out buttons, zoom to full extent, temporal controller panel. You can be able to make spatial bookmarks and show the spatial bookmarks that you would have created. So this is the toolbox to control the processing toolbox. So this is the same as this option right here. There is also an option to calculate or show the summary statistics for measurements. There is Open Data Source Manager, which allows us to load the data. New GeoPackage layer for creating the new data sets, and new shapefile layer and other types of layers. These are the editing toolbar or tool buttons. To edit the current layer, to toggle editing, to save the layer edits, to add features, to digitize line segments, and so on. We can also customize the tools that we want to see on the toolbars. So we can do that by right-clicking and selecting specific toolbars that you want to see. Next, we are going to explore the panels. So we have the browser panel on the left. This allows us to navigate the files, the databases, as well as the web services such as WMS. There's also the layers panel, which allows us to manage the layer visibility, the order, as well as the symbology. So there's little tools here that allows us to do that, to move up and down the layers that you would have this side, and to be able to remove the layers as well as the layer groups. There is a processing toolbox this side. So this panel gives us access to geoprocessing tools that are available within Quantum GIS, as well as the extensions such as the GRASS, GIS, GDAL, white box tools that you can install. You can also have Saga tools also listed here. So for example, we can go under settings or options and specify the providers that you want to activate in the processing toolbox. Next, if you have you can also activate the layer styling panel. Which will appear this side if you have a layer loaded, and this will allow us to adjust the symbology, the labels, as well as the layer rendering of a particular layer that you'll be dealing with. So of course, to enable or disable the panels, we can always go to our view and go to panels. For example, if I want to disable this layer styling panel, I can simply do it like so. Next, the map canvas. This is the central area where our maps and data are displayed. And we can right click on the canvas to be able to access the context menus, particularly zoom to layer and identify features. And we can also use our mouse wheels to zoom in and out if we have a layer loaded. Then at the bottom, there is a status bar which will tell us the coordinate of the current mouse position in the project CRS units. There's also a scale which will allow us to set manually, and we can also log it so that it doesn't change. There's also a portion that shows us the memory usage, the messages, the error messages that we can get, as well as the current CRS. Finally, we can also rearrange the panels, right? So we can drag different panels to different locations. For example, we can move this layers panel to the right, and now it's appearing as different tabs. We can move the processing toolbox to the left, and now it's appearing with the browser toolbox. And we can move the browser to the bottom. So it's just a matter of how you prefer your layout to be. So you can move these panels around to be on top of each other like that. And yeah, be able to customize the graphical user interface the way you want. We can also adjust the UI theme, the graphical user interface theme, by going to settings, options, general. So settings, options, and we select general. So under here, we can be able to change the style, the theme, which is currently default. And we'll see that if we change this, any of these, then we need to restart our Quantum GIS. So we're going to change this to night mapping and click OK. So now we can simply close the Quantum GIS and open it again. Whenever a plugin is not correctly configured, it will throw an error message. So you can just simply close it so that you can continue. So this is a different theme, a darker theme that we changed earlier on. So if you prefer to work with a darker theme, you can choose this one. In summary, the menu bar, which is at the top, allows us to access core functions within QGIS. The toolbar provides us with a quick shortcut for common tasks, and the panels, they allows us to manage data as well as the tools. And the map canvas allows us to visualize and interact with the maps. The status bar, which is located at the bottom of our user interface, allows us to monitor the coordinates of the mouse as we're moving the mouse around, the scale as well as the project CRS. This brings us to the end of the tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Goodbye.